Hello people! Today we're doing a summer Paisley set. We're going to be doing these on a curved almond tip. And it's curved, see, there's how it looks instead of flat, kind of how they usually are. Now I don't use these very often because some people have a hard time getting them to fit on because they have a pretty big curve in there, so they're hard to get glued on properly. But anyway, moving on, we're going to be using some summer colors and doing foils. Okay, now I've sped this up as I usually do through this part. Originally with this, I was going to do an ombre on the nails, and I had a mud gel color that I was going to use. I realized quickly it wasn't going to work to do an ombre with this regular other kind of polish. So then I decided I was going to sponge it on and do a fade from the top down with it, but it just was not showing up anywhere. So when we get to that point, I switched it out for a different color, which is already at a point where I just did it as a fade instead of an ombre, and we're moving on now to coat number 2. But you'll see in a bit here when we get to that. This is the first time I've been on since I noticed last week that I made 100 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I'm so excited about that, you guys. Thank you so much for watching my tutorials. It was a pretty exciting day when I saw that for me. For somebody that didn't set out to be making tutorials, I just got in it because somebody asked to see how I did something, and then it kind of snowballed from there. And now I'm rather enjoy doing them. So once again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And this should be the last one for the second coat. Okay, and we're going to cure those. Okay, now I'm just going to use a regular makeup sponge. I get these from the dollar store. You get a whole pack of them for $1. And I probably bought some maybe 3-4 years ago, and I still haven't used them all, so there you go. Don't spend extra money on stuff if it's not necessary. You can always get stuff cheaper than you think. Okay, this is how we're going to do the fade. Now this is the third color I brought in, which I would have done as an ombre if I'd thought about it sooner before I'd already polished those with 2 coats. So we're just gonna sponge this on. That's a bit more than I'm gonna want. I think I go back later and take a little bit of it off. And really, there's not a huge difference in the colors. So it doesn't show up a whole lot, but I just wanted something a little bit on there. It really didn't show up much on here. Now, if I had done these as an ombre, I think it would have looked pretty cool. If I have to recreate these nails, if somebody ever wants to buy any of them, I will do that as an ombre instead of doing the sponging part. But anyway, in this case, this is what we're doing. This is a quick and easy way to do a fade, at least for me. Whenever I try to do it with an ombre brush, it just comes out looking kind of stripy, and it just doesn't look nice. And I'm going to use the side of the sponge to take some off if I get more on there than I really want. And that's where we're just going to be. And look at the mess on my glove. See, this is why another reason I'm wearing gloves. Because that would have been all over my fingers, and that would have been a humongous breakout, and I would have been miserable for like a week after that. And moving on. I probably didn't need any more polish on there. I'm used to doing this with regular polish, so you have to, it soaks in and then it starts to dry on there, so you have to really keep loading it on. But as gel polishes, you know, are not going to dry until they're cured, I really didn't probably need to keep adding more. I don't want that much, so we're going to try and get some back off, and then we got to do the fade part again. See, once it doesn't have as much on the sponge, it seems it works a bit better. And oh, that was not the last one. Okay. See, that's better now. There's not so much on there. I did notice when I was cutting the end of the sponge off at the end of this whole thing, when I was cleaning my mess up, the gel polish had soaked way up into the sponge, which you don't get with regular polish either. It dries on the edge, and then you just cut the end off, and you got a clean sponge to work with. But I had to cut quite a bit of it off after this. But anyway, that's where we are so far. I'm going to cure those, and the rest I will do off camera as soon as I'm done playing around with this one. Guess I decided it had a little too much there. Okay, now we're going to cure them. Now they're cured, and now we're ready for the foils. Okay, we're going to go over. Now I'm only going to put foil glue on 2 of these at a time, because I have learned now that if I do the whole rack and then cure them, by the time I get done foiling the first couple of nails, then the glue, it just doesn't want to work as well when it's sat there for a really long time. So I do now 2 at a time, and you want to put a nice thin layer of foil glue, otherwise it will wrinkle, and then you can't foil over top. Okay, while those are curing, this is the foil I'm using. I tried to pull these colors of polish out of these colors on the foil, which is how I came up with what I've got. Okay, so I'm starting off here. I'm going to use that heart, and I'm starting off cutting these with my nail scissors that do not cut worth a crap. So I don't know why I haven't got around to getting some new ones. I really need to do that. But I'm going to start off cutting them out like this, but along the way I'm going to switch over to using my X-Acto knife, which I don't know why I didn't think of in the first place, because it was much easier to go around those and cut with that. And there's the heart. Now see that little piece of stuff on the edge of the heart there? We want to get rid of that. Otherwise it's going to transfer over to the nail, and we don't want that on there. That little tiny sliver of stuff right there. Okay, all cleaned off. And I'm going to go ahead and cut out the next thing. Or am I going to get... Okay, now I've switched over to the X-Acto knife. The only hard part about this was just you got to be able to hold that film there kind of firmly. So once you're already cutting pieces off of it, it's hard to find a place to get a grip where you can keep it firm so you can finish cutting. But anyway, this is how I'm going to cut out the rest of the stuff. I won't show any more of this part because you guys don't need to see me cutting stuff out. I'm sure you can manage that on your own. But that's what we're doing. And as soon as I get it out of there, I think we're going to be ready to go with the first one. Okay, here we go with the thumb. I'm putting the heart on this one. Now make sure of your placement before you let it touch that nail at all. Because if it touches it even a little bit, it's going to pull that design off of there. And then it's going to be on your nail. Then you're going to have to clean it off and start over. So we are going to rub this down firmly. I'm using this silicone tool so that I can hopefully get through these. Sometimes I just use my finger. Depends on what I'm doing. Now see how we have that wrinkle? Now I'm going to switch over to, this is the other end of my cuticle pusher to kind of get that wrinkle smoothed out. You want to try and start at the center of your design and work your way towards the edges. That way get any bubbles or anything out of there if there's any. And the area where I always seem to have issues is right around the edge of a design. So that's why you're going to see me go over and over and over these edges. And even then I still had some issues with it, which you'll see in a bit here, but just want to make sure it's on there really good. I want the whole thing to be pressed on nicely. And now I'm going to go around these edges some more with my nail. I'm also trying to be careful not to touch the rest of this nail surface because I'm going to be adding another bit at the bottom part there. Originally I was just going to do one on each nail, but I was going to do these on a shorty set, and then I decided to use this shape instead. So I'm going to peel this off very gently. Now see how there's a little bit missing? That's why I say don't yank it off like a band-aid. And I know I say this every time, but it bears repeating because I keep seeing people do that online. If I had yanked that off, it'd be a real pain in the butt to get it to match up. And you're going to see that problem because when I get to the end of here, once I get this off most of the way, there was an issue on the other side that I didn't notice until I peeled it all the way off. See that middle bit now? It wasn't on. So I'm going to lay it back down and go rub it again. If you just can lay it back down, everything's going to be lined up perfectly. Now see those bits that are missing? Now I have to try and get them to line up in the right exact spot, which is a real pain in the rear end, so that I can get them on there again. Now, there's some things, if you're doing a solid foil, just all one color, like a metallic foil or whatever, you don't have to be matchy-matchy. You can pull it off and then just put it back on over the area you need to, another part of it, and just put it on and just rub it back on, because you're not matching anything, so it doesn't matter if it's going to overlap stuff. Okay, that part went on nicely. I think this one gave me a little bit of trouble up here. Aside from also the fact that the film that these transfer foils are on is like staticky, so it wants to like suck itself onto the nail, so you have to be extra careful. Okay, it's not perfect, but there we go. We got them on there. Now, if I really wanted to be a perfectionist, I would take my detailer brush and go around that line with a color that matched that and fix that, but I was being lazy that day. I didn't do it. Then I decided to put some of these half ones on the bottom part of the nail. So that's what we're going to do here. And that's going to be all that goes on. So now I'm not going to be so concerned about touching the rest of the surface. But it is very tacky, so you do not want to be touching it with stuff, especially if you don't want to get fuzz or hairs or whatnot on there, 'cause it's hard to get off. Okay, and let's see if we have... Mostly came off clean. I see a teensy tiny bit on that pointy bit that I'm not going to worry about. But there we go. There's the thumb. Okay, moving on. Before I start on the next one now, I'm going to go ahead and put my foil glue on the one after that, so it can go in the lamp and get cured and have time to sit there and rest a bit after it's been cured. I find that if they sit for a little bit after they're done curing, it seems to work better. If they sit too long, then it doesn't work. It's kind of really finicky. The different foil glues, I think they all have their own method. You just have to play around with it. Now this McCart one, I cure these for 90 seconds and then I let them sit for about maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute before I start foiling them. And that seems to work pretty well most of the time. Okay, we're going to start at the center and press everything outward towards the edges. Now for the most part I try to use the silicone tools or just my fingers, because when you see me using this cuticle pusher, if you're not careful with these hard edge things like that, you can break through that acetate or whatever that is and damage your design underneath. So you have to do it firmly but also carefully. And I gotta say too that this cuticle pusher tool is the best tool that I think I've bought, because I use it for everything. Aside from pushing my cuticles back, I use that other end as a scoop for when I'm doing embossing stuff on there, or just getting pigments out maybe to mix with other stuff. And then this end here I use for all kinds of stuff. For what I'm doing now, I also use it for dealing with the carving gel and scooping other things out, or sometimes I use it for scraping stuff off of things if I need to do that. So I'm really getting my money's worth out of this one. Okay, now I'm going to go all around this edge, because like I said, that's where I seem to have the most problem, is around the edges. And also I got to be careful, because I don't want this to pop off the nail stand, because it's going to be even harder to deal with if it's just loose on the, by itself on the table. And let's see what we have on this one, because now I don't remember. Nope, there's a little bit that wasn't going to come off down there, so now we're going to go over that again. Just down there on that bottom bit. And voila, we got a nice clean one on that one. There we go. Now at the bottom I'm going to add another one of these little half things on this side this time. Also too, you want to make really sure of where you're putting it. That's where you want it to be before you let any of it touch the nail. Because like I already said, once it touches that tacky stuff, it's going to pull that off the transfer paper, and then it's going to be on your nail. You're going to have to clean it off and just start over with it. So they're not like stickers, or if you get it in the wrong place, you can sometimes peel them back off and move them. It doesn't work like that. No, this one, excuse me. There's a little bit at the bottom that didn't transfer, and I'm going to try to match this up, which is not going to work very well, being that it's right down there on the bottom. And if I had a third hand, I could have done it, I think, or if I had something to hold that nail that was going to be firm and not moving around like it is, I think I could have got this one perfectly on there, but I didn't, and it was right off the edge. You don't really see it, so I didn't worry that much about it. I'm going to get it on there as best I can. It still isn't really in the right spot, but it is what it is now. If it wasn't so close to the edge, I probably would have cleaned that one off and started with a new one, but you're not going to see it from the top where you're going to be seeing the nail. So I just went with it. And there's that one. And now I'm going to foil glue the next one. And pop that in the lamp. And the one we just did a few minutes ago is going to be done and ready to go now. And eventually, there it is. And this one's going to have this flower on it. Now this one did give me some trouble around the edge parts again. So it is not going to be perfect when it comes off of here. Okay, we got some wrinkles to try to work out. Now, when you're using these two, you'll see as you're getting it rubbed onto there, the transfer paper will start. You can see it start to come off a little, and you'll see that it's clear in some places. Sometimes you can see where it still needs to be put down, and sometimes you can't. So I just try to be thorough and go over the whole thing really thoroughly there. If I'm not mistaken, it was somewhere around this top edge of these two that I had the issue with. And sometimes I don't know why it doesn't want to come off, because I'm going around all the edging very carefully. And now see that one, how it's a little bit right there? It's a little bit, I think it got folded under, and then, you know, the design part, and I could not get it to smooth out. So it ended up being, that's just how it was going to be, because I could not get it to smooth out under there. And if I mess around with it anymore, I'm going to tear it. So we just went with it like that. In the big scheme of things, you don't really notice it that much anyway. I mean, I notice all these things because I know where the mistakes are and the errors are that I don't like. And when I look at my stuff, that's really all I see. Other people never notice that kind of stuff, at least not most of them. Now we got that part. Now, for Pete's sakes, of course there's got to be a guy out there with a weed whacker right now when I'm trying to do this. All right, and here we go. See that down there? I didn't notice that as I was pulling it off, or I wouldn't have taken it all the way off. Excuse me. So now we get to play this game of let's try to line it up again. Oh, for Pete's sakes, man. People out there making all kinds of noise today. Okay, there we go. Except for that one part where it's folded under it, it's not too bad. And we need our little half bit to go on the bottom. Okay, and I'm just going to press it down as best I can. I think I had some issues with this one too, if I'm not mistaken. It's just weird to me, like all the rubbing that I do, and as thoroughly as I'm going around all it, how come there's just some parts that just don't come off the first time? I don't get it, but you know, I don't know. I guess it's just one of those things. Nope, see that part right there did not want to go down. The middle part now. Okay, take two. I'm going to try it from this side this time. Or not. Doing the foils is, oh, look at that, it did come off cleanly. Okay, now moving on to the pinky, I'm going to use these little ones. These two are already together on next to each other, so I'm just keeping them on one piece. Some of these foils can be finicky. Like the really super cheapo ones that you get may not always work. So if you get some that don't work, don't be discouraged right away. Try to get some better ones. I found the ones that I get off of Amazon tend to work most of the time. The ones I get off of Ally, it's kind of a crapshoot. Some of them are good, some of them aren't, and there's no way to know ahead of time. You just have to get them and play around with them. But on the bright side though, they're really super cheap, so you're not going to be investing a whole lot of money if you get some bad ones. It's not like you're out a bunch of money. And I'm kind of out of the shot, but there we go. Look at that. That one came off cleanly. Woohoo! Okay, and one more half a dude on the bottom, and then we'll be done. And the rest of them I will do off camera, so you don't have to sit through any more of this nonsense. What I started to say though too is doing foils and doing stamping, it's kind of almost the same for me. Like some days it just goes very smoothly and everything goes great, and then some days you just have a bad day with them. It's just one of those things. One thing that doing nails too has taught me to be a lot more patient. Although if you heard the cursing that went on sometimes in here when I'm working on stuff, you wouldn't think I was being patient, but really I'm a lot better than I used to be with that. Yeah, my family knows now if there's cursing happening in here, do not come in there and bother me at that time because you're likely going to get your head bit off. Okay, I believe this one comes off nice and easy, if I'm remembering correctly. Also, too, leave yourself a little bit of room of the backing paper stuff around the edge of there, because if you don't, it's really hard to get a grip on it and try to get it off of there if there's no edge to grip onto. Okay, there we go. Nice and clean on that one. Okay, now we're moving on. I'm top coating these. I'm using my tempered top coat here. This is the other set, the other rack that you guys didn't see me putting the foils on. So you can see closer up the other ones I did. I like that flower on that one that I'm doing right there. I wouldn't mind doing a whole set with just those. Okay, I'm doing a kind of a heavier coat too on the top because I want to make sure they're protected really well. And lastly, the thumb. That one kind of looks like a germ. That top one, it looks like a virus or something. Anyway, I'm going to hold these upside down so the polish goes towards the center of the nail away from the edges. Cure them, and now we're moving on to the embellishments. I'm using these three colors of these beads with the gold rim around them. I don't know what they're called. And these pink crystals and rose gold caviar beads. Now I'm going to buff just the center of where I'm going to put on the accent nails, where I'm going to be putting those, and then wipe it with some alcohol, clean the dust off, so the glue will have a better surface to grip onto. Sometimes I do this, sometimes I forget, and I just go ahead and glue onto the shiny surface. Frankly, I don't usually have many problems with that, but just to be on the safe side, when I remember and when I'm potentially going to be selling these to somebody, I need to make sure that things are not going to come off. So we're going to go with 3 of these beads. We're doing kind of a swoosh. And then I'm going to go with the pink crystals as soon as I dump some of them out so I can see what I'm dealing with. We're going to go with some of these in between. And on either end. And then I will start to get smaller and then put a teeny tiny one down on the bottom. Now as you can see, I got a bit too much glue down at the bottom of this one. We'll fix that in a bit. Now I'm going to put some little glue dots on here in between where I'm going to be putting all the caviar beads. I guess I could have just picked up glue off that bottom stuff instead of getting it out of the pot. I'm seeing now, as I should have realized that before. Okay, then we're just going to put them in there in between each one. I just like to get them on there first, and then I will go back and shove them in there where they're supposed to be before I cure them. That one needed a bit more glue. And I have sped this up, obviously, as you can tell now, so you don't have to sit through a big long thing of this, because it does take time to do the crystal placements and stuff. And I'll swipe off some of that excess glue, and then I'll use it up there. These don't really look rose gold when I'm seeing them like this. They look like the same gold as the gold rim around those beads. But trust me, they're not. Okay, now we're just going to move these guys around and tuck those things in. I'm going to separate those two because I don't like how they were so close together. We're going to get the rest of these tucked up in there nicely. And when I'm happy with it, it will go in for curing. And now we're back, and I'm going to the final step. We're going to take top coat, and I'm going to clean up this gluey mess by putting top coat on here again. You can get it on the caviar beads, and you can get it on the gold rimmed beads, but you do not want to get it on your crystals. It will lose all of their sparkle if they get top coated. So we're going to get that on there, and then I'm going to give it a swipe down so it's even. Cure it, and then we're done. And here we are, all finished. If you like this set, I'd really appreciate it if you give me a like. And if you want to see more, I upload new video every Saturday. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And I very much appreciate all of you guys following me and subscribing. It means a lot to me. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.